Do you know how to truly detoxify your body? Maybe you've run the test, environmental toxin test, maybe you've run a heavy metals test, and maybe you've even worked with a doctor and they've put you on binders. Maybe they've put you on pectosol and activated charcoal. And maybe it worked, and maybe it didn't. And maybe you even felt worse. Hello and welcome. I'm Carrie Bailey, your no BS, soul aligned functional nutritionist, and I help you figure out the root causes of your symptoms and how to use food and supplements and herbs to truly heal. Are you ready to detoxify your body the right way without crashing your body? That's why I created an app for that. It's called Phenotique, and it's my guided healing app that takes you step by step on this healing journey, which includes detoxification. If you're interested, check it out. I put a link in the description below. My belief is that toxins are one of the root causes of why your symptoms come about. If you're struggling with chronic symptoms, things like brain fog, fatigue, hormonal issues, thyroid issues, these are signs that your body is carrying a toxic burden and having a hard time clearing it all by itself. If you're on this planet, you're going to have toxins. They're everywhere. They're in the air, they're in our food, they're in our water, they're in our personal care products, our lawn chemicals, our furniture, off-gassing. In the buildings we're in, they're off-gassing as well. Even if you're doing your best to eat organic and avoid these things, avoid toxins, you're still going to have some degree of exposure. That's currently, right? And that not to say how much exposure you've had across your life. You could have been exposed like me to mercury fillings, to amalgam fillings, and giving me 30 plus years of mercury poisoning. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, doesn't your body just supposed to detoxify naturally by itself? Yeah, in the ideal world. Sadly, we're not living in the ideal world anymore. Since the Industrial Revolution, we've had more and more toxins come into our environment, and our body just can't keep up with the heavy load, the burden. Add to that the issues of nutrient deficiencies and chronic stress and just a sluggish liver, and we're all struggling to get these toxins out. Maybe you've run all the tests. You've run the heavy metal test, the environmental toxin panel, you run mycotoxins. You've done it all. Tests can be helpful, but they're not the full picture, right? There can be toxins buried deep inside the tissues of your brain, of your liver, of your pancreas, of your uterus. Like, it can really be anywhere in your body. And these toxins, the ones that are going to show up on the test, are only the toxins that are being chelated or provocated to come out of their hiding place into your bloodstream or your urine. So it's only part of the picture. It's not the full picture. And really, for the full picture, we need to look at your history, but even that doesn't do it. But the signs and symptoms, the symptoms you're experiencing, give us an indication of the toxic load that you're carrying. So I always say that testing is true but partial, right? It's just a snapshot in time. It's just one part of the picture. But there can be a lot more going on underneath the hood. Now, if you go to your standard doctor, conventional medicine knows nothing about detoxification. They probably wouldn't even touch it. But if you are in the alternative medicine space, you've got your functional doctors, integrative doctors, naturopaths, chiropractors. All those types of healers are probably going to do some sort of detoxification. It might simply be a detox in a box that's like 10 or 20 days or even a week, right? Or you might have a longer protocol. Now, they're going to use things like activated charcoal, pectosol, diatomaceous earth, bentonite clay, and they're also going to use herbs to try to pull these things out of your liver and your body. Things like milk thistle or dandelion root extract, right? And the problem with most of these detox protocols is that they are filled with gums, alcohols, and citric acid. And unfortunately, these kind of ingredients are very harsh on the system. It's like using sandpaper to clear off a table instead of just a gentle cloth. And so we want to use gentle things on the system. We don't want to further aggravate on a detox. Also, it's important to address the pathogens that can be at play, right? It can be viruses like Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus. There can be other pathogens like E. coli in your digestive tract, streptococcus in your sinuses, different pathogens that need to be addressed, as well as the toxins, because the two of them work together, right? They can be fuel. The toxins can be fuel for the pathogens. And so you need to get rid of both. And the other problem I generally see with going to the doctor, and they're sort of at the high level, right? They're going to give you some basic supplements, like here, take these basic supplements to address nutrient deficiencies. But they're going to proceed pretty quickly over up to what I call tier 3, right? Tier 1 being the basics, the foundation. It's like if you're building a house, you always want to start from the bottom and build up, right? You would never build a house from the top to the bottom. And it's not, there's no fault with the doctors. They just don't always know that the importance, I think, of food into that whole picture, right? That it's going to be harder for the body to detoxify if you haven't addressed the nutrient deficiencies, lifestyle, and all those things. And having a coach or a nutritionist, someone along the journey with you, holding your hand and making sure that all those things are in place before they run the detox. Now, some doctors are going to put in a few things, and they're not going to necessarily jump to detoxification right off the bat, right? But they're also not going to see you on a regular basis. So they might see you, give you some things, try these, come back in a month. And in a month, we do more testing, do more protocols. What I see a lot of the times is that the foundation, the scaffolding isn't in place. Things like hydration is very important to make sure that you're hydrated to detoxify. It's very important that you have precious minerals in place, right? Your body needs key minerals, and getting the minerals in place can take time. And to make sure that you're getting those from food and supplement sources, right? Supplements can't do all the pieces. What I see sometimes is that detoxification processes, protocols, those things can make people feel worse rather than better. And I'm the prime example of that happening. So back in the early 2000s, when I was Googling my health issues and I looked up my symptoms. So back then I was struggling with fatigue and brain fog and insomnia and pain. And when I looked at those, one of the common things that I found was heavy metals. And so I found a naturopath who was willing. I told her all these things, and she said, okay, let's run some tests and see things. And so she ran a nutrient test, and she said, oh yeah, you're deficient in nutrients. And she, gave me some B12 injections. She noticed for the fatigue that I was struggling with Epstein-Barr virus. And I said, well, how can we kill it? At the time, she's like, yeah, there's nothing you can do. Once you have it, that's all you can do. It doesn't die. It doesn't ever go away. So I was like, okay. So then we ran the heavy metal test. And because I suspected that, I had mercury fillings for 30 years. And so we ran the test. And sure enough, it came back high. So we did the protocol of detox, and I have never been so sick in my life. I literally felt like I got hit by a Mack truck. I had small kids. I couldn't be a mom to them. I was like horizontal on the couch. And I can't remember even, it was such a blur, if it was like a week, 2 weeks on this protocol. And then we retested. And sure enough, just like what she described, she's like, lead came out first, then mercury. But the numbers were still high, right? And my symptoms were still there. But I know I did not want to keep going on like this. There was something inside me that said, there's got to be a better way. We need to look at other things. So I continued on. But it was kind of interesting. That experience just taught me so much about how to not detox the wrong way. Now I have a client, her name is Christina. She came to me 2021-ish, and we started working together. She wanted to lose weight. And so we worked together for about 6 months, and she was able to lose the weight, a little bit of weight. She didn't get where she wanted to go. So in her pursuit of wanting to get better, she found a doctor. And so she went to that doctor, and that doctor ran all kinds of tests and did all kinds of protocols. And now this girl, she was a data girl, right? She was in the Silicon Valley. She wanted data. What do they always say? Test, don't guess, right? And whereas me, I can use symptoms that I'm not guessing, right? I'm looking at someone's symptoms. So she found a doctor that was going to run all the tests. So that doctor ran all the tests. They did the protocols. They ran more tests. They did protocols. And $30,000, and 2 years later, she came back to me, and she was more inflamed. Her C-reactive protein was even higher, which is a liver marker saying there's tons of inflammation in her liver. She wasn't feeling better. But in explaining that story to me, I was able to connect the dots a little bit, that like one of the things that made her feel better was an antiviral. Well, this doctor didn't really address the viruses in her body. She was doing stool tests and heavy metal tests and all these detoxes. but she wasn't getting to the root cause, all of the root causes. And so again, this Christina came back to me and we continued to work together, doing much gentler detoxifications, trying to get her to lose the weight, right? And so she's still on this journey, right, of trying to lose the weight. She wants to get married next year. She wants to get pregnant. I'll explain more about the duration of time that it takes. But anyway, just the fact that she spent that kind of money and for 2 years and really had nothing to show for it was just heartbreaking to me that she went through all that. Which is a good segue to, like, how long does this process take? How long does it take to detoxify? I can assure you this isn't a weekend thing, a 7-day, a 10-day, or even a 30-day. I mean, it literally can take months. So many factors are at play with how long it takes. It can be your age. It can be how long you're sick, what your total viral and toxic load is, and your overall lifestyle, right? If you're a person who's working full-time at a really stressful job, then that's going to be harder to detoxify, right? Than if you have the privilege of not having to work and you can just literally do self-care, right? And focus on you and you don't have anybody else to take care of, right? And almost no one has that ideal state, right? Because the mental, emotional, the stress component is huge, right? You cannot detoxify, you cannot heal if you're under a significant amount of stress, right? And we're all under some stress, but the more stress you have, the harder it is to heal. This kind of goes back to, right, not only your total burden, but also like what your capacity is to release those toxins. It's all okay, right? Healing is not linear, right? I always say it's a line you want to go up this way, but it's kind of ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs, right? And I think it's important to have either a community or practitioner, someone on board with you to help you on that journey, because you're sort of lost in the sea of, like, am I supposed to be experiencing this? How does this feel? When does this get better? Like, so someone to really answer all those questions. And that's part of what I'm trying to create with Phenotique, which is the app that I'm developing, right? That I have told you guys about earlier. So this is something that I just think is I wish I had that, right? When I was trying to heal, I was just out on Google. They didn't even have they didn't have Reddit. They didn't have any message boards. Maybe they had Facebook groups, but they didn't have everything that I needed when I was going through this journey myself. So you might be asking, well, then what really works, Carrie, to heal? What's the best way to detox the body? And I think of it as going deeper, but doing it smarter, right? So always food first. Bringing in the most nutrient-dense foods that are organic, and these are like fruits and vegetables, and making that be the primary part of your life. Those are the nutrients that your body needs to heal. And I do believe, and I always say, that when you give your body what it needs, it will heal. And I wholeheartedly believe that, and I hope you believe that too. My method is very much food first and terrain based, right? Meaning the terrain of your body. Everybody's terrain is going to be a little bit different. Everybody's lifestyle is going to be different. Here's a little bit of what that looks like. One is reducing your overall fat. Now, some people need to go completely fat free, at least on and off, and other people can just go low fat and do just fine, right? And are able to detox. And again, this is where it's very bio-individual. Everybody's ability to detox is different under different circumstances. And the other piece is bringing in as many fruits and vegetables as we can. You don't have to be vegan, right? But if you want 80 or 90% of your diet to be fruits and vegetables. Now, I didn't say beans, I didn't say grains, I didn't say animal protein. So again, your fruits and vegetables, which is so funny because I always think that I feel like every diet out there that's trying to make people feel better is taking away their fruits and vegetables. And I get it. People don't understand still how fruits and vegetables can actually heal you because there's so much information out there about lectins and oxalates and salicylates. And I've gone down that journey. So I have that. I'll explain those in other videos for sure. Let's get into what I think are the 5 most important ingredients to detoxify. Now, these ingredients I like to put in a smoothie and get it done first thing in the morning, period. Other people might want to just make sure that these ingredients are in there every day across the day. But everybody's different. I'm just like, throw it all together, throw everything in one giant smoothie and have that be the most nutrient dense part of my day, right? And then you can go eat the things that you want to eat later in the day. Okay, so the first one is sea vegetables, specifically something called Atlantic Dulse. Now, this is amazing for pulling out and binding, or I should say binding to heavy metals, mercury, aluminum, lead, things like that. It's going to bind it and help your body excrete it out of pee, poo, sweat, and breathe, right? That's how your toxins get out. The next one is an algae. It's called spirulina. You might have seen this. It's kind of looks like a blue-green algae. Spirulina is amazing at binding to and pulling heavy metals out of your liver and your nervous system. So if you have any neurological symptoms, dysautonomia, sometimes fatigue, chronic fatigue can actually be a neurological thing. So there's most of the symptoms that I see in long COVID are neurological. And so fatigue, brain fog, those are all things where you really need to have spirulina. There's a greens powder out there that I don't necessarily like the mixed greens powder. I like to bring in the very specific mineral-rich nutrients that I know are going to do specific things in the body. So this one is Barley Grass Juice Powder. So they take this juice, just like you've probably heard of wheatgrass, they juice it and then they dry it into a powder. So it's very potent, more potent than barley grass powder. So you want the juice powder. This is not only very high in minerals, it's also excellent at binding to and pulling heavy metals from your pancreas, your thyroid, and your reproductive glands. So if fertility is an issue for you, this might be something you want to bring in, especially. Cilantro is amazing. Fresh cilantro, you could do like a whole bunch or half a bunch in a smoothie. You want to use that to extract the heavy metals deep, deep, deep in tissues like the joints and the brain. And the fifth food is wild blueberries. Now, I very specifically said wild blueberries. Conventional blueberries are okay, but if you look at a conventional blueberry, it's actually kind of not blue all the way through, whereas wild blueberries are blue all the way through. They're super dense in antioxidants and super rich nutrients that are amazing at pulling things, toxins out of your brain, deep in those brain tissues. Wild blueberries can be found in the freezer section of almost every store. I've seen them at Costco, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, like you name it. Every store here in the US, I've seen wild blueberries. Now, they might be a little harder to get if you're abroad. I had a girl I saw in the Philippines, and the only time she got wild blueberries was when she went to visit her brother in Canada. So Canada has them, US has them. I don't know how easy they are to get elsewhere, but definitely try to find wild blueberries. Now, these 5 ingredients are key. They work together to give you minerals, glucose, antioxidants, phytonutrients, everything your body needs to get rid of those toxins. And it also gives you the fuel, because remember, your mitochondria, in order for the cell to work, it needs the mitochondria. In order for energy, just like you couldn't get your car to move if you don't put gas in the engine. The same thing with the cell. The cells, in order to detoxify and to function, to grow and to die, all those things, you need fuel, which is glucose. Glucose is the fuel in every cell in the body. And when you don't get glucose in its natural form of like fruits, for instance, then your body can make it from gluconeogenesis, but that's way harder, right? It's a lot more work than if you just pull glucose. The other part of my story that I didn't tell you is how I've come to find this smoothie to be so magical in my life for me, is that I started playing pickleball a little while after starting this smoothie. And I noticed that it was a great measurement about how my game was getting better. As my brain was getting better and clearer, my game was getting better. So my reaction time was faster. I was able to move faster. And so just the whole brain-body connection was working better with those 5 ingredients every single day. Now, sometimes I would skip it, but for the most part, leaving those in every single day. If you've tried detoxing and not only did it make you not feel better, but it made you feel worse, you probably want to grab my long COVID recovery guide. This guide gives you, whether you have long COVID or some other chronic symptom, it's going to give you everything that you need, directions on what to eat, how to detoxify, and things like that. It's just the perfect guide. I'll put a link in the description below so you can grab that. And I would love to know, have you detoxified your body, and how did that go? Did you have a gnarly detox effect like I did? Or do you suspect toxins in your body? Tell me your story in the comments. I read and reply to all the comments, so I love answering your questions and hearing your stories. I created this next video just for you, and feel free to subscribe to my channel so you can see more of my videos as I release them each week.